Hi, AP Calc. This is part 2 of the 3.3 Lesson 2 video. Number 53 in the textbook, page 116 is what we're looking at right now. It's this. Write the equation of the tangent line to f of x equals 5 over 1 plus x squared at 2, negative 1. Now, if you recall, y equals mx plus b is what we're after. And there are pretty much 3 basic steps to doing this. 1, you find your slope. And since we're talking about m tan, that really means f prime at the x value that gives us our slope. So it's going to be f prime at 2. That's step 1. Step 2, you're going to pick x and y to plug in for the x and y here. We've already got them, 2, negative 1. And then we're going to use our m, which we don't know what it is next, to actually plug into y equals mx plus b. That's going to give us our b value. So step 1, find m. Step 2, find b. Step 3 is to rewrite the equation with those pieces of info put in. So the m and the b. So let's do this. F prime of x, we're going to use quotient rule. Bottom times the derivative of the top. The derivative of 5 is 0 because it's a constant. Subtract the top times the derivative of the bottom, which is just going to be 0 plus 2x. Divide that whole thing by 1 plus x squared. So I can do a little simplifying here. This whole left part zeroes out, and then you're left with negative 10x over 1 plus x squared squared. Remember, in quotient rule, there's no need to expand the bottom unless we're really looking for something, unless we have no other option. Okay, at 2, right there, so you're going to plug in 2 here to find our m value. So negative 10 times 2 over 1 plus 2 squared, the whole thing squared. So the top's negative 20. The bottom is 4 plus 1, 5 squared, 25. And then have the presence of mind to simplify that thing. So it's divisible by 5 over 5, so it's negative 4/5. Okay, step 1 is done. F prime of 2 is equal to negative 4/5. F prime of 2 equals negative 4/5. So now that's going to go in place of the m right here. Let's see, we're going to bold one. Y is negative 1. M is negative 4/5. X is 2. Solve for b. So it's negative 1 minus, this is going to be negative 8/5 plus b. And then I would add 8/5 to both sides. So it's kind of like you're taking 8/5 minus 5/5 because that's what 1 is. So you get 3/5 for b. All right, last but not least, write the equation of the line. Y equals negative 4/5 x plus 3/5. And you can keep it in slope-intercept form right there. So make sure you guys still know how to write the equations of tangent lines. That's going to be a thing that continues over and over and over again. Okay, let's move on to number 69 on page 117. This is totally different. You're basically given predetermined derivatives, but we're dealing with very abstract pieces here. So the first thing is to just be able to translate what the heck's going on. When you see 2f minus g, you're actually talking about 2 f of x, 2 times f of x, minus g of x. That's really what's going on right here. And when they have the little prime symbol and a 2 here, it just means take the derivative of each part, which if you're taking the derivative of 2 times f of x, if it's just a constant, we can take the derivative of the x valued function, which is going to be just f prime of x, and then leave the constant alone. You don't have to do product rule on this one. And then the same thing over here, you're just going to call that a prime. So this expression comes out to be 2 f prime of x minus g prime of x at 2. So there's the abstract sense of it. Now just plug stuff in. It's going to be 2 times f prime of 2 is negative 1 minus g prime of 2 is 2. It's negative 2 minus 2. Negative 4. Same thing here. It's going to be 5f of x plus 3g of x. We're taking the derivative, so constants again. Plug in a 2. And then match them up. 5 times negative 1. 3 times 2. Now, if you put 2 of these side by side like that, they're essentially asking you to multiply the 2 functions. I don't think they're talking function composition. Let me be 100% on this. Yeah, we're multiplying the functions. So they're saying take g of x times g of x. So now I have to actually take the derivative of this. But here's the thing. I can't just say it's g prime times g prime. We have product rule when you have 2 separate functions like this. So if you're going to take the derivative, it's going to be the first times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. It's a really strange way of thinking about it, but that's exactly what this function forces us to do. So that would be essentially 2 of these, right? So 1 gx g prime of x plus 1 gx prime of x is 2 gx g prime of x. All right? And then you're plugging in 2. So that gives us 2 times g of 2, which is negative 5, times g prime of 2, which is 2. So negative 10 times 2 should be negative 20. All right, and then our last one. Sorry, I'm just double checking on something. The last one kind of forces us into a quotient rule situation. So got to do quotient rule. And if you recall, quotient rule is the bottom, which I'll call f of x plus g of x, the bottom times the derivative of the top. The derivative of 1 is 0, minus the top. Sorry, I'm going to have to erase the work here. Adios. So bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom will basically just be 5 not 5, f prime plus g prime. All divided by f of x plus g of x, the whole thing squared. All right, so it zeroes out this whole term. That multiplication takes this out. The negative distributes to both parts. But you know what? We can plug in the 2 right away. There's no need writing these variable expressions over and over and over again if they just end up being whole numbers anyway. So it's a -1 times -1 plus 2. All over 3 plus -5 squared. So that gives us 1 times -1. You guys can barely see that. The bottom is going to be -2 squared. That'd be a +4 on the bottom. All right. I wanted to go over one more problem, but it's not from the textbook. I attached it in Google Classroom. So let's check it out. Where's my eraser? All right, so I put in Google Classroom that I wanted you to do from the supplement number 83 and 85. That's the 2 highlighted ones. This is the one I wanted to do for notes today. So I want you to pause the video and see if you can do A, B, C, and D on your own. Just to test yourself to see if you got it down. All right, let's see if we're correct in our thinking. Part A. Your answer for part A should be f prime of, we're plugging in 2, equals 5f prime of 2 plus 2g prime of 2, which is 5 times 4 plus 2 times -5. So that's 20 minus 10. You should have got -10. Positive 10. B. The answer for B, f prime of 2 equals little f prime of 2 minus 3g prime of 2. 4 minus 3 times -5. That's a negative times a negative, which creates a positive 15. Should be 19. B is 19. C. F prime of 2 equals, gotta do product rule of this thing. The first times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. And that equals -3 times -5 plus 1 times, where is f prime of 2? 4. Should be 15 plus 4. C should be 19 as well. Is that right? I think so. Looks good. Okay, last one, D. F prime of 2 equals, got to do quotient rule, the bottom times the derivative of the top, which these are 2's now, minus the top times the derivative of the bottom, all over the bottom squared. So that gives us, maybe I'll come off to the side here, need some more room. G prime is 1. F prime of 2 is 4. Minus F of 2 is negative 3. G prime of 2 is negative 5. Divided by G of 2 is 1 squared. Okay, so we get 4. This minus a negative becomes a plus, but that's going to be negative 15. So it's plus negative 15 over 1. So it should be negative 11. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful, and thanks for watching.